Welcome back. This is Made in Abyss, Season 2, Episode 6. Really looking forward to this one. A little bit of, my thoughts are going crazy, right? This is what the Abyss does to you. Wait for it, I'm gonna end up like Bondroot. Yeah, we do have a lot of interesting moral questions in front of us, and also a lot of little sprinkled in mysteries, Rex origin and all of that. We go over it quickly. I don't want to make the pre-discussion too long. Turn down the volume, of course. Alright, we go in. Belov, great design. Once again, great design. He has kind of like a sun mask-ish design, right? The dragon body or snake body, if you want to, right? Snake wisdom, there's some symbolism in there. Or we do have the sun face kind of ish, right? With the creepy eyes, yes, but I've seen these kind of masks before, and I think they have been used in representations of sun deities or something along those lines. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look that up, but it looks very, right, sun rayish if you use an abstract representation of a sun. But yeah, very, very interesting, very cool. Designs altogether, even like these all of these alien forms that kind of are supposed to represent something along for these people. I mean, we know that, right? In terms of like 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸, there was the representation as something furry and cuddly and good smelling, which was all the opposite of what 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 was in life, and subsequently was what 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 wished for herself to be, right? And this was her blessing. I'm using her, by the way. A lot of you people have been saying, yes, the author let the gender of 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 ambiguous on purpose, because for whatever reason, right? It might have story reasons, or it might just be preference of the author being like, all right, I think it's fun to leave that ambiguous. We have a lot of references to, like, when 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 speaks, she often uses 𝐸𝐷𝐸, which is very rude for I, right? But also often used by men rather than women, although there is exceptions. Tomboyish characters often use 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸, but they more often use boku, so... although boku is more like young man, I think, right? Young man, teenager, whatever. So it could be a boku to 𝐸𝐷𝐸 as you grow older, but we do know 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 isn't too old, so or we assume so at least. We don't know how after her alteration she ages, but I chose to start calling her based on, like, stereotypically and in terms of my intuition and feeling, 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 feels more like a girl to me, although I could be wrong, of course. It's all a little bit of stereotyping in there. Stereotyping is not wrong, by the way, at least not on the surface. It has a functionality because as humans we obviously have to quickly kind of assess the people that are opposite of us in terms of their intentions, their capabilities and whatnot. That is a thing that was very functional in evolution. So it developed as such on a social system as well. I would say that I mean, obviously there's a lot of theories why and how that worked, but I think it makes sense that functionally you have to assess quickly how somebody you don't know might be. Even if that has some big inaccuracies in there, it at least is better than not knowing at all what the person opposite of you is. The important thing with stereotyping is to keep an open mind, and yeah, keep your mind open to having those conceptions of yours challenged and changed as you get to know people better. But yeah, I'm gonna continue calling 𝐸𝐷𝐸𝐸 she for now. Still, our Bakuyan or however he is called has a really cool design. I said that last time as well, so sorry if I keep repeating myself. We are going deeper into the mystery with this automaton, robot, watchdog, whatever, who kind of explains that, and bear with me, it's been a while since I reacted to the last one, so right, this is after my main exam. I still have an exam in a couple of months, but this is after the main exam, and been a couple of while since I saw the last one, but the robot kind of explains that they have been tasked with keeping tabs on the different layers, but that the kind of thing that Reg is, and that he himself is as well, although they're different types apparently, they are kind of observers in specific layers and ecosystems, and that Reg is an exception because he was able to, what others of his kind don't normally do, cross layers, right? Cross into other layers, in this case even all the way up to the surface and down again. I do wonder why they have the functionality to actually cross layers in that sense, but I guess it's just a result of their production and who they are, because the layers seem to mainly, like the curse of the layers seems to mainly affect humans and living things. Living things in general, but the creatures of the abyss can obviously read the force field. Interference units, that's what it was. Yeah, very interesting, and I'm very curious to see what becomes of all of that. Our guy here is still as eccentric as he always was. Ma is still creepy as fuck. I'm sorry. I mean, I understand, right? Mind of a child, kind of. Maybe even was a child before transformation. Very attached, but also very naive and doesn't know how to behave. But Riko's taking her along, or him along, which is very, very nice. I can't get over that butt design though. Like, what the hell? What the hell? Anyway. Very nice innkeep or restaurant owner who kind of teaches Riko a little bit something about the glyphs, and we meet 𝐏𝐢𝐏. I still can't say it. 𝐏𝐢𝐏. I call it 𝐏𝐢𝐏. Okay, 𝐏𝐢𝐏. Also, YouTube, don't fucking block me for that. That wasn't on purpose. I go on a little bit risque with that visual thing on her, but it's fine. She's grown up at this point. Yeah, and we do have like the instinctive, the entire organism is kind of instinctively against going down here, which is very interesting. We still don't know enough about how the village was created exactly. We know 𝐏𝐢𝐏 didn't want it to be created in that manner, and she's been kind of helping be the guardian and guide the society of the village in some shape or form. I don't know if 𝐵ELAF and the others are actually aware of that, or if they see 𝐏𝐢𝐏 being imprisoned and the judging, balancing organism of the village as two separate things. That would be an interesting aspect. 𝐏𝐢𝐏 also seems to be very hesitant on seeing 𝐵ELAF because they had their altercation and she opposed them and I don't know if she got locked up by them, or if they were like, okay, if we do this and that, then she's gonna be forced to stay down there. I don't know how they feel about her, right? We were only gonna see that when they eventually hopefully meet. That's gonna be a very interesting encounter between the two of them. And here we have the two of them together again, which is very heartwarming, simultaneously very heartbreaking. And we'll have to see what becomes of that, because obviously this is MIDI and also not. Because, I mean, if we take what 𝐵ELAF says literally, then this is actually MIDI because the soul has been replicated. But the question is if the soul just got transferred from the abyss here to here, or if it got actually replicated and now you have two MIDIs, one that died and maybe even got reborn somewhere, and one that got replicated over here. It's also very curious that this happened possibly after MIDI died. I don't know if it happened after MIDI died, but it possibly happened after MIDI died. So this is a very interesting aspect of that as well. Look at these eyes. The designs are great, right? It's hypnotic, kind of. And the entire, like, body, the snake dragonish body, it looks like it's made out of bones. And 𝐵ELAF actually also said that he gave away his limbs for all of that. So it was a dragon with limbs before, 700 whatnot limbs. I wonder if it's a dragon, a snake, or if it's actually I don't know how you call them, but it's in our language we call them 1,000 feet, right? These little insects that have like 1,000 little limbs and crawling across the. I don't think it would fit Belaf, but it's possible, right? It says like 700 whatnot limbs. And we have Bondred actually coming down here, and we have the question, how the fuck did he come down here? Didn't we establish in Dawn of the Deep Soul that he possibly didn't? That he couldn't because he couldn't activate the whistle because it doesn't accept him as being alive? Or did it well, because he sacrificed his own flesh, right? If he sacrificed his own flesh, then his own original body doesn't exist anymore and the timber can't be produced. So the question is, how did he make it down there? Did he go with somebody else? I mean, that's a possibility. Go with Liza, being like, hey Liza, you go down there, I'm coming with you, right? And then he goes back up with his cartridges in order to keep resisting the curse of ascending, and then he's like, haha, I made it back, bitch. Welcome, Idofront. I'm still running this place. Yeah, I don't know. Or he died down there and then he could transfer his thing again, but the method of spanning layers is difficult, right? Prone to failure, so kind of hard. Yeah, these looks very very creepy indeed, very creepy, like being taken apart and whatnot. Compensate this whole entire thing about like the value of things and trading and compensating with your own body parts, even compensating with your soul, compensating with things like that. It's very creepy. But it has something very appealing, right, in terms of like a narrative perspective, because it really draws you in as a phenomenon, as a theme of a story. But yeah, Riko was able to kind of haggle a little bit, but she didn't haggle something. I mean, the only thing I would give if I was Riko was maybe the arm that's already hurt, but even that would be a huge loss. So I don't know how we get out of this. But yeah, that's about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're probably gonna get new input in this episode, and then all of our little questions and the things we are insecure about, we're gonna get more context about this and can work it out a little bit more in the post-discussion. As always, there's two versions of this video, of this reaction. There's the edited reaction over here, and there's the picture-in-picture and description down below. Also, would also like for you to check out the Discord, check out the Patreon that I have. I have early access there if that is something that might interest you. Pay attention to what I'm writing on the YouTube and Patreon community pages, because based on that you can kind of decide, is there a lot of early access going on right now, or is it like a low phase where I can't do a lot? Because I do have like these phases where I can't do a lot, and where sometimes like there's a week or two where I can't deliver a video. But I'll keep you posted on that. Other than that, let's just jump into the reaction. I'm really excited to get this started again. Without any further ado, episode 6 starts in a 3, a 2, a 1. Mitty. Yeah, that is a lot, Riko. Ooh. Don't be hard. Don't be rash. She's gonna find a way, but she has to think about this hard. These are some harsh decisions that have to be made here. The intro is visually stunning. I mean, once again, I don't like the CGI pull-up of the abyss itself, but the point of view, right? The ripple on the water surface. Shout out to my ReZero light novel readers. I wonder why the intro zooms in on Bellav's eyes there, right? The blue eyes of Bellav, because it seems very very important in a way. I mean, I understand the focus between 𝐏𝐢𝐏 and Fapada, which is probably something we're gonna get, but there seems to be a lot of involvement of Bellav as well, as being like the third part in that dynamic. The luring. Oh, I almost forgot. We have the luring, which is supposed to be some kind of event. She's very shy on that one. Okay, yeah. Yeah, ask for help. Ask for help, Riko. That's important. I think that has to do with the luring, probably. What the hell is that blob? Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense to provide with food and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, a hunt is a dangerous thing, especially against powerful creatures. It's insane how Riko pulls everybody with her, right? Even in such situations. Such weird art and design decisions. Wow, that looks absolutely amazing. It belongs to you, right? They took it. Mm-hmm. All right. And he can understand the stone. Wow. Oh, all right. All right, dude. Bro is a little bit too much into his work. So what is that? Is that a villager? Holy shit. It underwent many balancings. I wonder what that means. And the villager poses, right? It fights. Ooh. Oh, so he's taken on, or it has taken on the role of 𝐏𝐢𝐏. That is the thing we saw in the intro. And the slime dissolves as into fantasy fashion. Yeah. Oh, okay. Finding value in work. Strength. Proving your strength. Mugi, okay. Defend it. Oh, they're all gonna die gruesomely, aren't they? I mean, she ain't wrong. I wonder if Riko could kind of help defeat that thing and then it obtains some value that she can trade with Belov. Oh. Riko's being 5-fed. Alright. Riko approving her worth. Oh, pretty lights, Ma. Pretty lights. Ooh, did she sell her hair? Alright, she's gonna make use of 𝐏𝐢𝐏. Okay. Changed his body, right? I like that new look, Riko. Alright, let's go. Let's outsmart the creature. Oh, I love that, right? The duck with the helmet. I mean, Riko has used her smarts a lot of times before, but this is different. Alright. Oh, we're gonna burn it to the ground, are we? Oh yeah, because it's slime, right? And now the slime can't properly absorb all of that damage. Yeah, it's crackling. Ooh. Monster slain. They got into the core. They're all gonna cheer. Victory!
Riko, 聞いたぜ。おめえがやったんだって。
私は仕事をお願いしただけなんですけどね。仮にオーガスミって呼びますけど。
オーガスミ、OK。
体のほとんどが空気より軽いのかなって。
Science。
空気より軽いなら風で捕まえられるかも。大きな風をずっと起こすのは難しいけど得意な人にお願いしたんです。
リコは顔の割にいろいろ考えるさな。大したもん。しかしおめえ貴重な髪の毛をな。 そういうのは自分のために使わな。
リーダーが言ってたんです。タンク使はやられたらやり返せって。タンク使は助けてもらった時も助け返すの。そしたらまたやり返してもらえるかもしれないでしょ。自分のためでもあるんで。ってことでどうでしょうか。
まあいいんじゃねえの。けどここのやつそんな甘かねえぞ。
Oh, does it recover?
何？みんな逃げて！
Oh. Oh no. Yeah. I guess that's it. Ooh, Brushka. Okay. I love how she has her own soundtrack. Ooh. Oh, what is that? Reg?
リコ、次の指示を頼む。感情が、景色が、思考が流れ込んできた。君とプルシカが呼んだとすぐ分かった。
Ooh, what the hell happened to you, Reg? The true purpose of relics. Alright. And Reg counts as a relic. Bro got a 10. And now we got our fight. Oh, and it kind of powers him up. I love the white design of his, like... Hmm. Oh, but he... Okay! So this is the effect of the whistle. The queen. It's a nest. Okay, okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would call that satisfied, but... The embodiment of value. But why? Because you could leave? Those weird legs. It's a cool design anyway. Can't you come along? Nah, Rek is going okay. Is it because of Weko?
おめえ一体何者だ。わちよ、ここに流れ着いて割と長えけどよ。おめえ一度も見たことね。
ブエコさんは私がドグープから大丈夫。まあいっか。あいつらに捕まったら言えないままになっちゃうもんね。奈落に眠る黄金都市を信じて目指した者たち、𝐏𝐷の生き残り。
Oh, we get this to hear the story.
名前はベーロエルコ。三剣の一人です。自分は姫にお目通りは叶わなかったけど、あの価値の化身が何を願っているかは知ってるよ。
Right.
全部きちんと話したら、多分後もくなっちゃうよ。
Further into the darkness, that's Riko.
言えるならここまで来てません。 こ外の時間とずれてるっては
Yeah.
君らの感覚でどれくらい前のことかわからないけど、ああ、イルミュイ、この子たちは君が使わせたんじゃないかな。
𝐸𝐬𝐨𝐬𝐬?
あれがきっと君が言っていた黄金鏡の本当の
A true resident of the Golden City.
ねえイルミュイ、見た？あのワズキャンの顔。あいつまだあんなに怖がることできたんだね。
Ooh, oh, we're gonna see a lot of interesting
可愛いイルミ
things.
ュイ、君の存在を、願いを、記憶を掘り起こす時が来たよ。
Her precious. Alright. That is interesting. I thought there might have been a parallel between Rek and Riko, Nanachi and Midi, as well as Weko and Fapta. But that might not be the case exactly. There might be a different dynamic at work here. But we're gonna find out, right? We're gonna find out what that strange orange relic is. Maybe that is her precious, her desire, her treasure. Used to be a human? I don't know. Could be. It doesn't look like a white whistle, so I don't think that's it. But yeah. Very interesting. In the dark swarm embrace. I like that. The cradle of desire. Alright, alright. I like that they don't have a preview, but that it's more like, here's the title, here's like our little concept art of one thing that's gonna be in the next episode, but we don't tell you more, because that's the cool thing. You're left wondering and kind of guessing at what's coming next, instead of seeing like a couple of like, hey, flashes of here and this animation and whatever. Because if you see the animation, you already can guess. It's more fun, in my opinion, to just go in with just the title and maybe a concept art, and then be like, oh, I can't wait what's gonna happen next episode, right? Because you're more blind to it. But yeah, I'll see you guys on YouTube. All right, let's talk about this piece by piece. We do start out with our conundrum that we have here, and Riko actually is immediately makes the decision to give herself up for Nanaji, much like Nanaji made the immediate decision to give herself up for Midi, which it's just Riko being thoughtless in the situation, right? Because if she thought about that, she'd have to maybe go back, look for Reg, talk it out with him, kind of between the two of them, work it out. But I guess this is just in her nature, right? Normally she thinks about things very thoroughly, but if something like this is at stake and her heart is really in it, she's really agitated, and she's emotionally involved in it. She can't make these clear decisions, which is very interesting, because that is a parallel that we have to, or that we can build to Reg in season 1, where whenever Riko is in danger, he has a very hard time making the rational decisions and actually getting things done. Now, these two things, in my opinion, have different connotations, because in this case it's like a decision of the heart, right? Self-sacrifice is something that Riko hasn't explicitly shown so far, I think, but that I can very well understand, and that makes sense in the contrast, like in the confines of her character and who she is. She's very adamant about her friends, right? And making it through this together, no matter what she has to pay for it, which is the thing. She doesn't, I mean, she values herself, right? We've seen that with the market scene where she's like, I'm not for sale. But there is a, there is a certain amount of her own capabilities, of what she herself is, that she's willing to sacrifice in order to get down to the abyss. And that's been that way since the beginning, when she started out as a Red Whistle cave raider, being willing to put herself into danger. We have in the very first episode of this entire show, we do have that scene where she blows the whistle in order to save Nat. And she does that very well, being aware, at least in the back of her mind, that that thing is gonna come after her and she might die. But she also has this tendency to very brash, well, I don't know how to say it. She also has this tendency to very risky behavior, if you want to call it that, to be very impulsive when it comes to these things, make the decision and willingly give these things up, maybe not even regret having done it, but then later on, if this whole scenario plays through later on, she would probably get to a situation where the thing she gave up creates a problem so big that she has to give up something more, right? And at that point, you're already invested. You already have given up something, right? You kind of, not exactly, you kind of can see that in the vein of a sunk cost fallacy, that she maybe even thought about that she says, okay, I've already lost part of my arm, right? What else can I get away with? And she plays that through in her head for a second. What else can I get away with? What else can I survive with that I can give up here? Because for her, obviously, the goal changed from making it to the bottom of the abyss to making it to the bottom with Rek, to making it with to the bottom with Rek and Nanachi. And everybody who comes to that, right? Everybody who joins them is gonna be an additional strength for Riko, but also an additional burden, because she is willing to sacrifice herself for what she loves and who she loves. But I find it very interesting that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 stops her here. That he has this, that he has this moral borderline where he's like, I can't let you do this. I have seen too many give up themselves for it. And he seems to care enough about Riko, be that on a value level, right, as we've said before, or be that just on a level of, I mean, if we value someone, even if we might be interested in obtaining them, right? If we think about this in the sense of relationships, right? I am in love with someone, but I also respect and value them beyond that, right? And the both of them are kind of melded together, obviously, that they are connected, but seeing somebody not just as an object, but also appreciating their qualities and worth beyond that. So I do feel like for 𝐏𝐢𝐏, that is the case, that he sees the value of people outside of the value they have for him, in the sense of obtaining them as possessions or whatever, because we had that discussion before in terms of like a human child is very much valuable down here, especially if they are not transformed or altered in any major way. But 𝐏𝐢𝐏 stops her and pulls her back, and we have our discussion with Riko, who is not quite doesn't quite have any idea what to do. Riko, in all of her mannerisms, is very meek. She's very very easy to she's very easy to unsettle. She is very insecure in her interactions with other people, often shrieks back, and that is kind of, I mean, not everybody who experiences trauma is like that. Obviously, there's a lot that can come out of trauma, aggression, externalizing it, but 𝐏𝐢𝐏 very much internalizes it, right? She's always seeking the blame in a certain situation in herself at first, right? Whenever something happens that she doesn't expect or that gets a negative or uncertain reaction, she has that tendency, that bias to interpret it in a negative way and then interpret it as being caused by something she did, which is, yeah, one of the ways people process traumatic experiences, especially if it comes to being abused, be that physically or in some other form, right? Mental abuse, sexual abuse, or just physical abuse in the sense of being hit or experiencing physical violence. But yeah, that is very much in line, very well portrayed in my opinion as well. I wonder if her interactions with Riko change something about that down the line. Riko and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 are not very similar. Riko is very bright. She has a lot of resilience and takes a lot of the abuse she gets. It's not abuse, it's environmental stress, right? It's things happening to her that are extremely stressful, but none of them are done with malice. And none of the situations that Riko, in my opinion, has experienced, aside maybe that one little thing with Ozen, did she have the feeling that all of the forces, all of the people around her are against her and hate her or blame her for anything? She has mostly grown up in an environment where, even though she has been endangered constantly, which is not a good thing to do, she has been encouraged, she has been supported, she has been led and instructed and educated on certain things. Her motivations have been spurred, right? They have been encouraged, and that shows, right? Even beyond her personality, that obviously plays into that as well. Her core personality, which is that of an optimist who has a lot, like I said, resilience, a lot of resistance against external stressors, who is always looking on the positive side, who has enthusiasm and curiosity and takes things in a very enthusiastic manner, has a lot of motivation to do things and to find out things, and has a lot of love for people. But the environment nurtures that as well, of course, right? That is, like, all of the things that she is based on her base temperament and the interaction of that temperament, of all that she is born with the environment she grew up in, which also technically includes her being resurrected by the thing and maybe having some weird voodoo shenanigans going on there, of her having that intrinsic pull, almost that unnatural pull to go deeper and deeper into the abyss. But they're very different. 𝐏𝐢𝐏 very much grew up in a very abusive environment, and we don't know how she was before all of that, if there was a before all of that, but she grew up not valuing herself. She grew up being afraid, blaming herself for the pain she received from others, seeing herself as the cause possibly of that pain, of that suffering she went through, trying to make people love her through actions, which is one of the things that, if you learn psychology and therapy, there is a lot of talk about the fact that people who come to you and have mental issues, one of the main things that you can give them, at least initially, in some forms of therapy, is that you accept them unconditionally. And what that means on a basic level is you accept them as the person they are. You try to understand why they act and think the way they do. Try to, right, have that empathy go into their perspective and understand that if the things they experience, they tell you, are the way they are, how did they come to the conclusions that they did? Why do they feel the emotions they do, and then validate them, right? Play them back to the person and be like, I do understand. And obviously that has to come from a place of genuineness. You really have to understand them. And the other thing that plays into that is also giving people your acceptance at the very least. Ideally, your appreciation, your appreciation and your affection, regardless of the things they do, right? You have to separate what they do, which you can very well criticize, can be like, I don't think that's alright that you did that or whatever. Obviously don't do it too much in the beginning, but you can do that, right? Judge the behavior of somebody, especially if it's bad for them. But don't judge them as a person in that sense, right? You have to separate that component of their actions and what they think and what they believe from just appreciating them as a human being and showing them affection as a human being, accepting them as a human being. Because a lot of people growing up, they learn, especially people who grow up in abusive households, but also people who grow up normally, right? We grow up, our parents aren't perfect. We're not gonna be perfect once we're parents. They get the feeling that you will be loved based on the things they do, right? Based on the things you do, right? And that is a problem, because then our entire self-worth, our entire self-love, and our feeling of being accepted is always continuously based on the things we do. Which can be a big issue in such cases, right? When you're being abused or when you have been abused, that you continuously blame yourself, right? I'm not being loved. I experience all this pain, all this anger, all of these negative things that come towards me because I am not the way that people want me to be. So I need to be the way people want me to be so they can love me, which is a connection that is very dysfunctional in many cases. Now, obviously, societal rules are important for living together, but it's always a compromise. It's always a compromise of not invading each other's spaces too much, not hurting each other, and showing understanding for one another. And that is an important thing, an important element of living together in society. But getting the feeling that you can only be loved if you meet people's expectations is a huge issue, especially for people who do struggle with psychological problems, especially disorders. But even if it's not quite a disorder, stress and being overwhelmed and all of these things, there's dysfunctional ways of thinking that can play into that, and one of them is exactly that. And we see that in 𝐏𝐢𝐏 over and over again. Whenever Riko has an outburst that is maybe not even directed at 𝐏𝐢𝐏, and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 reacts attributing it to something she herself did, and immediately assuming she did something wrong, which we do see later in this episode. And it's very sad, but it's very well portrayed in that regard, in my opinion. And we do have that. Okay, moving on from that tangent, we do have the luring, which is obviously the village has to eat. The village, well, maybe they don't have to eat, but the village has to, or wants to, acquire new value, right? Bring new value to itself, because they can't go outside, but sometimes people come inside and they can trade. And also just what else do you do if you don't eat and drink? Well, you do eat and drink, right? So there's that element. Maybe people actually have to eat and drink. Some of them, maybe all of them, do have to. We don't know the specifics of the transformation, what it does with you. But ultimately, what ends up happening is they lure in monsters from the environment and try to defeat them and slay them and make use of them, of their carcasses or whatever they leave, in order to either add value to the village in a material sense or emotional sense, or to, I would assume, produce food. And it's a spectacle, obviously. It's something that people are looking forward to because it is a very big event happening, a social event where everybody works together. It also strengthens the cohesion in the village. It exemplifies that togetherness, right? That is counteracting possible tension between people within the village. All of these things. So it's a very important event. We also have that interaction with our little I don't know how to call them, like the relic smith, the stonesmith or whatever. And they carved out Prushka's or Brushka herself, right? Very, very beautifully. And they are somehow apparently intrinsically connected to the workshop itself, so they can't leave it. If the workshop dies, they die, which is a very interesting concept. And we could say a lot about being married to your work, right? Being or making your passion into your work and then being intrinsically tied to it, and what can happen if you lose that tie, right? If you can't continue doing that work, right? What that does to your self-esteem, to your understanding of yourself as a person. But moving on from that, they give that to Riko. They say, like, only you can bring out her true voice. And I heard her, yeah, the stone sings of being with you, so it can understand the stone, which it makes perfect sense then why they are that stonesmith and why they are so good at bringing out the true nature of these life reverberating stones. And maybe other stones as well, right? Anything that has a soul, maybe, in a way. Anything that is not entirely human and has a soul. A very beautiful whistle, an actual whistle-looking whistle, which I very much like. And I do like how it kind of reminds me a little bit of Menya with the little ears that it has, and also a little bit of Prushka with, like, I feel like it almost looks like it's Prushka's upper body with her arms, kind of, right? With her outfit that she had. Kind of resembles that in a very rough manner. Not exactly one-to-one, but you can see it. And this is something I really like that transference of those two to make that connection even stronger. But yeah, there's this little thing said about being ecstatic when doing it and really being stimulating, and they climaxed. I'm doing it as I did with the other things. I'm gonna skip over that. They definitely wouldn't. I feel like they definitely. I'm not gonna skip over it. Am I? I definitely think they could have expressed that differently, because there's a real exasperation, a real euphoric feeling about flow, right? About losing yourself in your hobby or work and really enjoying what you're doing in the moment, right? And I feel like it's very sensual in a way, especially if this creature can actually hear the voices of the stones and kind of, right? I imagine that like a trip, being on like a psychoactive trip or something, and really feeling in tune with nature and with everything around you. And I feel like they could have expressed it like that instead of on a sexual line. Although that could be just the translation, of course. That could be the translation. We know a lot of things get lost in translation when it comes to different languages, especially when it comes to a language that is as complicated as Japanese, or as different as Japanese from Western languages. it could be a lost in translation or mistranslated, but it could also just be a line of thinking that the author has, in which case I'm not gonna judge, but I feel like if they want to express it that way, that's fine. I feel like you could have expressed it better. And we could have went into a deeper discussion about how amazing it is to lose yourself in your work and to find fulfillment and, yes, ecstasy, exactly, and euphoria in what you're doing and in the moment you're doing it, which is an amazing thing to do, really. And these moments, these are the moments that some people actually live for. I mean, I'll live for more than that, but I definitely would lie if I wouldn't say it's amazing to do this sometimes. Sometimes it's stressful and it's overwhelming, and you feel like it's just too much. And sometimes you just start to get this weird euphoria that really swings with you as you go along, and it's amazing to be in that moment and to think back on these moments and to just enjoy them the way they are. But yeah, big slime thing is killing all the people, even one of the 3 sages. It's not one of the original ones, obviously, because that is 𝐏𝐢𝐏, but she or it replaced 𝐏𝐢𝐏 apparently as one of the sages to take over the role. Obviously, they have a defined social structure where every sage has an important role in society, and they had made that up before they even went on this great voyage to the abyss. But now they kept that and felt like there needed to be something, some person that takes over 𝐏𝐢𝐏's place because something would be missing otherwise. Maybe there's even something missing despite them being in that position. I wonder. I don't know if this person actually died, or if they did almost die and we actually saved them. But if they actually died, then I do wonder who's gonna take over 𝐏𝐢𝐏's position, or if now that 𝐏𝐢𝐏 is outside, she's actually come into the equation again, and there's gonna be a little bit of conflict between the two of them. But yeah, Riko has an amazing mind, if she wants to apply it, right? Sometimes she's very impulsive, doesn't think things through, but if she actually stops to think them through, then there's almost nobody in this series who can rival her when it comes to her ability to be creative and to apply the knowledge that she's gathered properly and make a plan to get herself out of a situation, which is amazing. That is her strength, and in my opinion, that is her superpower in this series. But obviously I expressed that a lot of times before, I would like for her to gain more and more of these powers. Now obviously we come back to that little tangent when Reg appears later on and has parts of his power, of his real potential unlocked. I do like that. I would like for Riko to eventually use the 𝔸𝕓𝕠𝕦𝕥. I do hope that Made in Abyss might be a series that's going on long enough for Riko to actually grow a year or two, at least in Golden City time frames. That would be a cool thing, that we have a teenage Riko who actually is a little bit stronger and can wield the 𝔸𝕬𝕦 and has her whistle, obviously. But yeah. Riko takes action. She thinks about these things. Hey, that is the organ to read the force field, right? Hey, this thing actually can float despite the force field not being here. What gives? And we I didn't quite catch what she said here. I wanna go back to that because she gave 𝐏𝐢𝐏 something for his assistance. I put that on 1.5 speed just so we don't have to wait too long for the thing to catch up, and so copyright actually doesn't claim me that much. 𝐏𝐢𝐏 also received a tuft of hair. All right. So long as there is value, 𝐏𝐢𝐏 can use a fast body and be reckless. Interesting. So 𝐏𝐢𝐏 definitely changed, so I wonder if that is just an ability that the robot body or the puppet body has on its own, or if that there's special conditions for that. what I find really cool though is that she employs other people's help. She's like, you do this, you do that. Riko being her leader self again, right? Growing into that leader position. Now Reg and Nanachi obviously gave her the leader position. That was out of trust, right? Out of the knowledge that Reg doesn't make decisions all that well, even though he improved. Riko is the head of the operation. She knows a lot. She has a lot of knowledge. She has a lot of creativity, and she can inspire people. And that is definitely one of the three components that makes a great leader. And in this case, she puts them all together. She's like, Kaja, here, I give you some hair. Are you willing to risk your life for it? And Kaja's like, no prob. I'm gonna do it, right? And I like the new haircut. It's cool. It's cool, right? I mean, she does look less like how do you say that? She looks more adventurous. She looks like she's grown a bit, which is weird, but that's the feeling it gives me when I look at it. She looks like she's grown a bit as a person, matured a bit. I don't know why this is the, like, short hair is the image I connect to that. I just know the contrast to the long hair, which she had in those two twin tails, which is kind of a little bit more of a naive, childish look, in my opinion. A simpler look as well, right? With all the smooth surface of her hair, and now it's kind of ruffled a little bit. She looks like she's a little bit more seasoned as an adventurer. And with the whistle, is the cool looking whistle, she really grows into her role. And I think this is one of the first moments that Riko actually does something mostly without Reg. And also without Nanachi in this case. She's on her own, and she grows into that role in the moment she's on her own. And I really love that for her, because that is an immense show don't tell moment of character development for her. But yeah, we're going for it. We're going for it. All the villagers are in. Riko is scared, but we had that talk in Frieren about resolve. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is going through with it and gathering that resolve despite being afraid. And that is what she does. We run from the scary, dangerous monster thing, and we come to that. I don't know what that barrier is. I mean, they were able to pass through it fine, and the monster didn't want to. So, it looks like a giant mirror, and the monster seems to also look at itself like it's a giant mirror. Maybe we get an explanation for that some other time, or maybe the manga had the explanation and the anime, because it wasn't all that important, didn't explain it. So if the anime did not explain this phenomenon, and it's not being explained in the next couple of episodes, you can feel free to write it down in the comments. Just don't extrapolate on anything that's coming later in the story. I'm very curious what that is and what implications it possibly has for the show in general, for the metaphysical and physical phenomenon of the show. But it seems to be some kind of special thing, and gives the monster a halt. And then we prepared before, right? And we initiate through fire. We initiate this reaction where it's very, very, very intelligent that the updrift of the air. Riko's like, oh, we could need some strong air to kind of blow this away, because it can float despite there not being a force field. So it has to be lighter than air. And then she's like, well, but we can't produce air continuously, right? We have turbines or whatever. Maybe we could do that, but it's kind of difficult. So she's like, what could create that fast and somewhat continuously? And he's like, yeah, an updraft, right? And how does an updraft get made? Well, you blow something up and create a giant fire, and all the warm air is gonna go up. And that is amazing, right? It's applied knowledge here. And we cast the net, and we disable all the doodads around, and now it makes sense, because this thing in the middle, the cracked thing, is actually not a monster. It is the nest for the monsters, and the entire thing was a moving nest, which is super, super interesting. Now, obviously, I do believe that means that the thing wasn't floating because it was lighter than air in general, but just because it was all these little individuals together. But the same effect, right? It had the same effect. and we worked together and we did it. And she's like, nah, don't cut your precious hair. But I mean, it's hair, right? It's gonna regrow, at least for most of the people that are young and whatever. And she says, like, what does she say here? Leader said cave raiders have to take an eye for an eye. Right, give something to get something in return, and that philosophy is really great, and I understand, right? Riko has had that philosophy for a long time, and we've seen it shining through here and there, but this cave raider philosophy makes sense. I help somebody in need. I help somebody in need, or give them something, and when I'm in need, I actually get something back. It's we talk a lot about altruism in like social psychology research, and the question if altruism is in itself, like if absolutely, completely altruistic altruism can exist, or if it's in a way selfish. And I would say yes and no. I think this question is kind of misleading, because altruism in its truest form has a selfish functionality, right? Because if you help somebody in need, the chances, right, if everybody goes ahead and does that, the chances are higher that people around you that know you, or even strangers around you, if that's a general rule that your society takes up, will help you in the end. So helping each other can be beneficial for a multitude of direct and indirect reasons. And a lot of them are selfish, but I wouldn't say they're selfish in the more narrow sense, because selfish in the more narrow sense means I do something for myself and only for myself. While in the broader sense, obviously, selfish is I do this thing for somebody else, so maybe I receive something in return one of these days, and I also feel good about myself because I helped somebody, right? Because that is how our brain learns behaviors, how we socialize, how we develop social structures, that whenever we do certain things and we get praised for it, or something good comes out of it for us, then our brain, the reward center of our brain, which is all these little limbic system areas that are responsible for our emotions, especially our positive emotions, like joy and whatnot, that are being fueled by dopamine and all of that, they fire, and suddenly we learn, right? We do that a couple of times and a behavior establishes, and we learn this behavior, and it's like, this is good behavior. It makes me feel good. Why does it make me feel good? Because there's something good that's coming out of it, right? And this is how we learn on a cognitive level to develop functionalities, to develop behaviors and ways of thinking that are good for ourselves. Obviously, there's a lot of ways this can go wrong and dysfunctional, but it's a basic principle, and in this sense, this is a great philosophy, right? I help you, and one day you might help me, and to bring people up and teach them that this is the way to go, is establishing a society where people start helping each other more and more, and people stick together. And she perpetuates that into this society. Now imagine the society we have here. Imagine they're very selfish and don't help each other out of the kindness of their own heart, but just because they trade value. Now imagine what a thought like that Riko puts out there, right? You can't put it back in. It's like Pandora's box. You can't put all the stuff back into it anymore. She puts it out there, and this is like a little spark, and at some point it's gonna create a fire. Or to say it like in Lord of the Rings terms, right? It's like the rolling of a little storm that's gonna cause a landslide. And that is, right, it's out there now, and somebody's gonna pick it up. This might change the society of the entire village for generations to come. It's gonna be a slow burn, but yeah. They're gonna cook. They're gonna cook with it. Yeah, and then in the moment of emotional distress, she hears Prushka. She has that special connection through the abyss. She had that connection with Midi. She had it even more with Prushka. Prushka tells her, call me. And she blows the whistle, and suddenly a wild rag appears. and it's not the Reg you know, right? It's the Reg you know, he knows you and whatever, but immediately Reg is being activated, kind of. You have... I love the contrast of it, because at first I thought he was just tanned from the sun because he was out there a long time, but they did that to make the contrast more, and it really pops, right? It really has a great effect. The dark metal sheen of his entire armor and helmet and whatnot, it's very, very silvery. Not silvery in the sense of shiny silver, more like rough matte silver, kind of bleached almost, and his entire skin gets tanned, which ups that contrast even more and shows that something is different, right? And it's almost like a glow, right? Like a holy activation glow or whatever. And here we kind of realize what the whistle can truly do, right? It can, in Bondred's words, kind of bring forth the true nature of relics. So relics have additional functionalities, additional things that they can do, and additional uses that maybe the whistle can bring out of them. And I think the base of that is emotion and passion, because we've seen that time and time again. Things, especially the metaphysical, supernatural things happening in the Abyss, are inherently tied to emotion. They're tied to strong feelings and strong cognition, and that is a great thing. That is an amazing thing. And Reg is being his usual great self, and after we're done, he goes back into normal Reg mode again. And we have, once again, we do have that good old, hey, give me 5. And he's so weird, but I love it, right? He's eccentric. He's not malicious, he's eccentric. I would put Belaf more in the malicious, not malicious in the sense that he's actively malicious, but malicious in the sense that he is more, I would put him more into the category of Bondroot, who he met, right? And he would be probably, in my opinion, more in the category of Ozen, right? Eccentric, weird, definitely very much his own behaviors, and not all of them are great, but in an endearing way in some facets. A part of Fapta, the embodiment of... Why, once again, why is she the embodiment of value? And we're gonna find out next episode. And I find it very interesting and funny that somebody who has been outcast for not being valuable, right, because of like the whole infertility stuff from her own tribe, is now the embodiment of value. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And why does she have special rules, right? Why is there a special something that... And I do wonder if Riko is actually able to leave the village or not, because she seems to be human and normal, but... And she wasn't part of the creation of the village, so... I don't know. It's very, very curious, very interesting. Reg leaves. I would have wished that Reg took like Riko with him, and like you get to meet Fapta, but there might have been a danger to Riko in that specific case, because Fapta seems to be not too happy about Reg actually prioritizing Riko. Although that could be me just misperceiving it. Also Ma lying there being like... Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least we know that Ma, deep down, is capable of really liking people and doing something self-sacrificial, and that on its own makes her/him very endearing to me, as a person, right? I still see Ma as a child, because all of the behaviors and all of the ways she acts, even the self-sacrifice in that specific case, fits the child, right? Who cares about you because you were nice to them. And we talk to Riko, who says, well, the cat's halfway out of the bag anyway, I might as well tell you my story and my side of the story, maybe, so not everybody turns around and is like, yeah, you're that person, all right, you need to go back there. right? And not on Belloff's side, but maybe they emphasize with Riko and can kind of understand her story. I'm sure there's a lot of plight and suffering in there as well. The social isolation, crazy, right? Especially for somebody who had such mental issues to begin with. Yeah, and definitely helper syndrome, obviously. That is kind of maybe the thing that she has in common with Riko, that they care very much about the people they are familiar with the people they're close to. I wonder what happened between her and Fapta. I did think that she's Fapta's treasure. That could still be the case, but it might be a different relation as well. We will have to wait and see what that is all about. And what that orange weird relic is about. He must be that thing you talked about, a true resident of the Golden City. So we have two things, right? We have these interference units, which the robot says, and we do have a true resident of the Golden City, which is true. Maybe both is true. That's possible too, of course, right? That at some point the true resident of the Golden City kind of immortalized themselves as robots, put their souls into these machines, and were like, we are gonna be the guardians of this place going forward. And at some point some shit went wrong, and a lot of them are dysfunctional or broken now. Maybe that's the case, the reason why there's so many consciousnesses possibly inside a Reg. Yeah. And we know Reg had the name Reg before he even met Riko, and Riko gave him the name Ragdo, which could be attributed to Riko's weird connection to the Abyss, but also maybe to there being more. And Riko knowing something that goes back to before she remembers, right? Because a lot of the memories we have in our very, very early days when we're still babies, we don't remember that because there's so much neuroplasticity going on, so much being replaced and rebuilt and restructured within our brains. Yeah, very interesting looking relic with all the little wiggly, almost like insect legs kind of thing down there, and the thing in the middle that looks like the star compass might be the counterpart to the star compass. And then we have that thing that goes up that looks exactly like the structure of the Abyss, okay? Like, the thing in the middle, yeah, it could be kind of resembly a little bit, but it looks like the star compass, and the star compass looks a little bit like the Abyss, but not quite. But the thing that's growing out of the star compass looking thing in the middle of the relic, it looks exactly like the shape of the Abyss. We have the star up there where it's right where you do have like the open space with the crater, and then it goes down there, and we have the first layer, we have the inverted forest, which is branching out a little bit, right? It's branching out, and then it goes in again, and we have the Goblet of Giants, and then we go further down, and we have this sphere which is isolated, which is the city of the capital of the Unreturned, or the Golden City of the Scorching Sun. So it looks like this, right? I mean, it's still egg-shaped, so it doesn't look like a globe. Now, if we want to symbolize and hypothesize about the relics, we could assume that since all the relics look kind of like an egg shape, I do wonder if the Abyss and whatever, right, the big crater that's going down, right, and into the surface of the Earth and maybe close to the core, definitely not all the way down to the core, is kind of just like an implanted egg into the planet. But I don't know what to do with that, right? I mean, visually it makes sense, metaphorically it makes sense, but I don't know what to do, like how to further extrapolate on a theory like this, because we don't have enough material to go on there. But yeah, as always, very interesting episode, everything really cool, really nice. I love how Riko is coming into herself, and how it's giving us more and more plot threads that are being picked up and laid down again, being picked up or whatever. We have continuous development, and it's always super interesting. It keeps being interesting, and it will probably keep being interesting all the way to the end. And then we have season 3, and maybe in season 3 we can do this on a seasonal manner, right? React to it every week or every 2 weeks and see how things are going, and then I have a little bit more like also the input of the comments in here, which is gonna be a cool thing to do. But yeah, I'd say that's it. Friends, if you do like my content, if you want to support it, a like and a subscription, right, goes a long way. I don't have YouTube memberships yet. That starts when you can, I think it starts with 500 subs, so might be there sometime this year. And then it goes on, like, I think you can make ad money with 1,000 subs. So I'm actively planning to do that. So there's gonna be ads at some point, because it's gonna be good for me and the channel, and I can invest more money back into the channel and whatnot. I'm not gonna overdo it, okay? And you're not gonna get too many of them if I can help it. But yeah. And memberships help a lot, obviously. And there's a Patreon with early access. So if you're interested in that, especially Made in Abyss early access, but also sometimes Frieren and 𝐏𝐢𝐬𝐨𝐬𝐿, which, like I said before, is more of an irregular series that's gonna come out like 2 episodes a month, sometimes 3, whenever and however I got the time to do so. Yeah, join the Discord. The links are not always up to date, so sometimes you're not able to actually join with the link that is down in the video description, because this is early access, and then I put the Discord link down when it's early access. And you're not gonna necessarily, but you can see, I do have a link to my, like a permanent link to my Discord. On my Patreon, I have a permanent link to my Discord in the YouTube About section. When you go to the channel and you click on the up thing there, where there's like Patreon links and whatever in there, and there's a little thing about me where it's like, hey everyone, I'm Terminus, whatever. There's also a Discord link in there. So if you really want to join us as a community, just talk to me every once in a while and talk to other people who enjoy this content or other reactors like that. Definitely join. Say hello. Stick around. You can lurk too. I don't mind that. Yeah. Until the next one.